Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our school board meeting. If there is anyone here that is wanting to address the board under number 11, unscheduled audience participation, it's page 4 of the agenda if you have one. Please, there's a white card over on the side. We'd request that you would fill one of those out and give those to Angela. So, happy birthday, Angela. So that, no, I'll sing later. Give that card to Angela. She'll give it to me during that time so that we can just kind of have an orderly process to that. So with that, Secretary Schaefer, how about attendance?
You bet. President Donnelly?
Here.
Vice President Griffith?
Here.
Secretary Schaefer? Here. Treasurer Bailey?
Here.
Trustee D'Alessandro?
Here.
Trustee Foster?
Here.
Trustee Hanser? Present.
Superintendent, throwing any changes to the board agenda?
None.
All right, you have the consent agenda before you and a motion. Chad?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there support? Eric, support? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Prearranged request to address the board. Looks like Oxford Gives Back is first.
I am also a senior. This is my first year on the planning committee, but I have been volunteering for Oxford Gives Back for about 4 years now.
My name's Carter. I'm also a senior. This is my first year on the planning committee as well, but this is my 4th year volunteering.
So we're very grateful to be here with you guys today to give you a quick rundown on what Oxford Gives Back is, what we do, and also an update on where we are with the plans for this year.
So we are a student-led organization. It's all run by the students. We do have some who helps us from time to time. We have about 12 people in the committee right now. We
provide free yard work for locals in need with the support from community volunteers. We are able to gather community sponsors, so all of the work we do is completely free, and volunteers need to only bring a good attitude. So we right now have 60 homes signed up and 140 volunteers. Our goal for this year is around 600 to 700. So we need to work on getting that up, but that's what our goal is for the next month or so. Ashley's going to give you a little bit more detail.
So one of our goals is to not only reach out to the students and parents and schools of our district, but it is a community project, and so we do want the entire community involved. And so to do so, we've been reaching out to different community businesses and organizations and asking for sponsorship. So this year, so far, we have $3,200 from 7 different businesses, one of them being Oxford Bank, and then the other one by Credit Union, along with some others, but those are the really big donations that we've received. We're finishing up sponsorship pretty soon, by the end of March, but we do have a couple that we're just waiting for the checks to come in to be finalized. So last year, we did only have 4 businesses donate to us or sponsor us. And so this is a really big step forward for the organization, and we believe that we are growing bigger and getting more involved in the community itself rather than just the schools.
So that's what we're doing outside of the school district. What we're doing inside to get the district more involved in what we do, we're meeting with the staff at all of the schools, and I know we have a lot of the staff here, so they've already heard our little spiel. But we've been talking with them at the middle school and high school to try to get students more involved, getting the teams, the clubs, and also trying to access the students that aren't involved in teams or clubs already, because we want Oxford Gives Back to be an opportunity to show those students how to be involved and hopefully spark a love for serving the community in that. In the lower grades, elementary and OELC, we've talked about reminding community members that it is an all ages event. I know that yard work sometimes seems like for older kids, But the main goal of Oxford Gives Back is to build community relationships and to bring everybody together. So that is really done well when we have younger kids as well as the older kids and the adults. Carter is going to just run down again what we have our sign-up genius, what we have our staff from.
Yeah, so we've been trying to run some, or utilize some new technology in our process. Right now, we have 60 houses and around 140 volunteers. Our goal is to have at least 600 volunteers, so we're getting there. We're trying to reach as many people as we can to try and get there.
To do that, we are using a new website that we have updated this year, oxfordgivesback.org. In the past, it was hard because we had information in like 6 different places, so people who were interested in learning more about the event couldn't really do so unless they directly contacted us. So our new website, again, oxfordgivesback.org, has all of the information about our history, our mission, past events. We have some frequently asked questions and how to contact us. We also have links to our sign-up, to our sponsor packet. Anything you need is on that website. So that's something definitely we've done new this year, and I think it's having a really good impact.
And the weekend dates this year are April 25th and 26th, so that is when the cleanup is. We have times from, 9 to?
Starting at 8 a.m.,
Starting at 8.
ranging to ending at 4 p.m. on Saturday, starting at 10, ending at 3 on Sunday. So, with all of that being said, I know there's kind of a lot of numbers and details. Does anybody have anything that they were unclear on?
Dan?
Do we have a link on our district page to their site?
I have no idea.
Is it possible if we can find out to maybe put something on our page that'll link them so that, because I think a lot of people come to the district site, and if we can piggyback that for you guys, that would maybe help.
That would be awesome.
What if somebody needed some help in their house? How would they get hold of you? How would you know that they could use your assistance?
So we're really active on social media. So we have our social media accounts as well as our email, oxfordgivesback@gmail.com. And it's more of just contacting us if you know somebody that needs help or if you yourself need help, and we set it up. We're accepting homes to be helped through April 1st. After that, it gets a little bit tricky because we're not sure if we're going to follow.
And we have also given information to HealthQuest in Oxford and to the American Legion to see if anybody there was interested in contacting us. We left some business cards and flyers for them if anybody there wanted to have some help.
We're getting our numbers back up in homes helping. I know last year we kind of had a lower point because we didn't have as many homeowners returning to us. But it was also a challenge last year to actually get every home covered. So we're kind of doing it in balance. We're doing smaller increases in homes to make sure that we can increase our volunteers at the same rate.
Anything else? Thank you very much. It's an amazing thing you guys are doing. Oh, yes, Corey?
This is a really good program. If none of you have ever had the opportunity, I would challenge all of you to sign up for it. To hear some of the stories from some of the community members while you're working out there, it's impressive. I really would. I challenge all of you to. And if you turn around and ask a lot of the teachers, if you get them to raise their hands, they'll volunteer while you're standing there.
Truly, we participated too. It's an amazing event. You guys do a great job and great work.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And for those of you who maybe didn't catch the dates, 4/25 and 4/26 are the dates. I'm sure those three will be happy to talk to you. Daniel Oxford presentation.
Hello,
Yay.
welcome to Daniel Oxford. It's a special month at all of our elementaries. March is always reading month. Reading is important all the time, but we take some special time during the month of March to celebrate reading. Our theme here at Daniel Oxford is growing readers to become community leaders. So I'm sure you all have special stories in your past where reading's been important that led you to your leadership roles now. So we certainly appreciate that leadership. And we're exploring that within our classrooms as well. So thank you. We're going to begin by going over some of our building survey data. My assistant over there is going to help us out. This is Sebastian. He's my assistant today. Sebastian, I just told him this week that one of my most challenging things of my job is when I have to do a presentation in front of the board. He was doing sort of a presentation sort of thing, and I said, you know, this week is the week where I have to do my presentation. And he said, when is it? And I said, well, it's 6:30 on Tuesday night. And so he said, I'm going to be there. So we didn't really set this up for him to be my assistant today, but he lives relatively close to the school. I actually saw him coming from our ad team meeting today to the building, and he was riding his bike, and he said, I'm going to be there. So he's become my assistant today. Thanks, buddy. All right, so we're going to take a look at some of our building survey data. So taking a look at our parent survey, we overall received good marks. Some of the things that we really highlighted that really stood out was that a high percentage of parents indicated Daniel Axford Elementary has high learning standards for all students. They also indicated that teachers set high expectations for students. They believe students are engaged in learning. They indicated families are encouraged to attend school-sponsored activities. And also a high percentage of parents believe that our school is safe, which of course is really important. Some actionable items that we took from our survey is there's always like do not know was a common answer. It didn't really exceed agree or strongly agree, but sometimes some of those do not know answers were a little greater than I anticipated or our staff anticipated. So it'd be interesting to dig deeper into that. Some of the questions were very classroom specific, so maybe they legitimately don't know. But we also questioned, like, are there opportunities to communicate more information out about what's going on there? And is that something we should be communicating? So that's something we'll be looking at going forward. The other piece was focus on communication of academic progress. If you actually look at our scores, 46% of parents agreed that the communication of their child's academic progress was good, and 52% strongly agree. So you may wonder, if you add that up, it's pretty high. But when you really looked at our survey data, those were two strongly agree and agree, were two like, their scores were very similar. And we would really like to see that strongly agree a little higher. But if we look back at like past surveys, that was an area that we've been working on, was the communication of academic progress. We've recently, I guess it's not so recent anymore, but we've changed over to a standards-based report card. We've changed some of the communications that we have going home to parents with their assessments. So if a student has a math test, they'll come home with a cover sheet that says specifically how they're performing on the standards that were tested on that test. So that's something that we're still taking action on, even though action has already started. So we are happy to see some growth there, but we think there's still work to do. All right, our staff also completed a survey. There's a lot of similarities between the previous slide and this slide. So our staff indicates that Daniel Axford has high learning standards. They believe that teachers set those high expectations for students. They believe our school is safe, and they believe staff members and families treat each other with respect. A high percentage of staff indicated a need to explore new topics for professional development. You'll see on a future slide that I indicate like one of our points of pride, really it's my point of pride, is the staff here is like amazing. Absolutely amazing. They're on board right away when it comes to new initiatives, especially if data is supporting that initiative. So we've been sort of really exploring some of the new things right away, and they're ready to explore more. So they're looking for some topics. So the actionable items to go along with that is they indicated some future professional learning focused on student behavioral, social, and emotional health, students with exceptional abilities, and higher order thinking skills. So we'll be investigating some of that going forward as well. All right, our school improvement plan, some highlights, a few strategies from our school improvement plan that are really impacting our day and our year. One of the things we highlighted, we were gonna call it conferring, but some of the work that we did at the start of this school year with Teachers College and our focus on workshop, and some of the discussions we had, we changed our wording to say that one of the things we really wanted to work on was providing feedback to students. So we know that feedback is really important in the growth of what individual students and where they are. So our school improvement plan really focuses on providing that feedback. So you really see that a lot in Readers and Writers Workshop. It's an opportunity to coach individual students based on his or her needs. We also focused on one of our strategies was really emphasizing our daily math routine. We did some work over the last couple of years, especially to start this year, where we analyzed some of our tier 1, that's our whole class data for math, and we're targeting on bringing some skills into our daily routines. That's something they touch on every day in math to kind of enhance those areas that we thought needed a bit more attention. And the last thing, we've really been focusing on literacy, balanced literacy, but specifically within balanced literacy, word study. Last year, we started the phonological awareness program, so it's year 2 in our school improvement plan, and it's been amazing. We brought that on based on feedback from our process of analyzing students' reading data, some of their strengths and weaknesses. When we started to see a commonality, we knew phonological awareness was something that needed to be addressed. So last year, we began that program. This year, we also brought on the phonics units of study. So phonological awareness and then phonics is a key part of our ELA section of our school improvement plan. Did you skip one? Go back one. You surprised me there. All right. Some points of pride. We're going to touch back to phonics in just a sec. Like I already said, one of the most things I'm most proud of, and I think our staff is proud of, is the amazing staff that we have here at EA. Not just teachers, but all the staff here at EA. Our custodians were working really hard today to prepare. If you can imagine a K2 building during the school day, the halls look very different than they do now at the end of the day. So they were scrambling to make it look nice for all the visitors today. So all of our staff we're certainly proud of. We've been doing some work with PBIS and restorative practice. So that's been a huge point of pride with all of our teachers. Our whole school is part of that. In many classrooms you go in, they start their day with a restorative circle, or sometimes even their afternoon with a restorative circle. Some of the other things we're proud of, we just found out today that our green team, once again, was awarded green team status. Actually, we even elevated a bit. We're still waiting on Mr. Bigelow's results. We had a little competition start last year, just between Brad and I. But we did get the evergreen status this year, evergreen. So I don't know how many points you got, Mr. Bigelow. He has no idea. But we'll check in later to see how he did. We also have a leadership team here, a Spanish club, and our junior Lego team. We have an amazing PTO, amazing parents that participate in that and volunteer. Our spring fair is coming up this Friday, so we're really excited about that. We lead a lot of great events, starting with our tailgate to start the year all the way to our spring fair. And then the last thing, we've been also working a lot on our MTSS process, but our leadership team and the support that we provide to students after discussing students or after analyzing tier 1 data, we're really proud of how far we've come over the last few years, maybe 5 years. Really proud of it. I think we have a strong team and a strong process. So. All right, come on up. So we have a few special presenters today. These are second graders from Mrs. Ryback's class. We have Sebastian, Kinsley, Taylor, Stella, and my niece Sydney. They want to tell you about a learning activity they did in phonics. The phonics program was added this year based on our analysis of student reading data. The phonics program is part of our school improvement plan. This learning activity extends beyond phonics. Students use their skills to take action. Let me grab you the mic. You guys can you pass this? You'll be able to talk. Oh, you.
Yeah.
As a part of our phonics unit, we have been learning about endangered animals as we work on word endings. Our class mascot, a dragon named Gus, which is this guy, sent us an article about the fires in Australia and told us about all the endangered animals there. The article told about how people around the world are helping save these amazing creatures. Our passion grew and we became fascinated with the animals in Australia after we viewed videos of animals that had been saved by rescue workers. We made posters and buttons that raised awareness for the cause. We wanted to help and decided to take action. One of our classmates suggested that we sell our books, but Ms. Rybank didn't love that idea. In the end, we decided to open a snack shack for the teachers that day in our classroom. We sold chips, pop, and candy to our teacher customers during the day. We were in charge of counting the coins and making change for teachers too. I made posters at home for the animals. I took a bunch of cardboard boxes and made them into a store at my house. I sold books and cookie catchers. We ended up raising $85 for the White's Foundation.
Yeah. So, do you guys want to show me the posters? I can show them. So, a part of the phonics instruction was just learning about new word endings based on a nonfiction unit of endangered animals. So we just simply switched it to the Australia class that was going on, and they wrote words like save the platypuses, and another save the platypuses were really big in my classroom. Save the koalas and save the billibees, and so they worked on making these plural with the phonics unit that we learned, and they're amazing. They did a nice job. So they actually are going to pass these out to the board members if you'd like one of the posters. What do you so just go one, you can. There you go. All right, thank you. Good job, guys.
I helped set up the table you're sitting at.
Really? Wow. Gosh, it's sick.
All right, so we're all set.
Any comments or questions that you have? Anyone?
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, girls.
Back to Miss What do you guys want to do?
You love to do that. Yeah.
Well, it's not assigned seating, Joe. You can.
All right, that is utterly fantastic. I don't think phonics was ever that fun for me. That is cool. All right, we have before us, we're on line item number 5, Board of Education Matters. We have Oxford High School Travel Club trip presentation.
Hi, I'm Katie Blaze from Oxford High School. Along with Jake Trotter, we're here to present our next travel club trip opportunity. We are headed to Washington, D.C. for the inauguration, which will take place where our trip is slated to be January 17th through the 20th of 2021. The cost for the students will be $1,000 altogether. That includes everything for anybody who's never and heard one of our presentations before. Basically how we believe is that when the students pay for the trip, basically they bring spending money. Anything else is already taken care of. Food, lodging, all those things will all be taken care of. We're flying. We are flying people. We no longer ride buses. So we're flying American Airlines. Usually that's who we end up flying. And we would be leaving Sunday morning and returning late Wednesday evening. We're going to get out of the city right after the inauguration and then be able to have the students back for class on Thursday morning. So it works out as usual for us on this trip. They will only actually miss 2 days of school because of Dr. King Day. So it's only 2 days of instruction that they'll be missing to obviously experience history in the making. So some of the big things that we will be looking at, obviously besides just the inauguration, is we plan to visit the Smithsonian's. We have a call in to get a better tour for the U.S. Capitol than just the public tour. One of our former students, Brooke Hebb, worked as a page last summer for Senator Peters. So we're working on hopefully getting like more of a better tour than we've had in the past there. And we're on the list for the White House, and there's a small enough a group that, you never know, maybe we'll get lucky. But those are some of the big ones. Obviously, we're going to go to the Holocaust Museum. That's always one that the students really want to go to. We'll go out to Arlington and a lot more. If we can figure out a way and somehow get in tickets-wise, we'd really like to see the African American Museum this time because it opened right before we were there the last time. But you couldn't even touch it. There were so many people. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. Obviously, we'll see all of the memorials and things like that. So this is kind of an old hat trip at this point for me and Jake. We kind of know the city, things like that. We'll use the metro while we're in the city. The hotel that we're looking at is literally across the I don't know, is it the river? It's not the river. I'm a history teacher, I don't know the geography there. But basically, right next to Pentagon City Mall. So that's what it's really close to the metro. It's also 4 or 5 stops from Reagan. So, and that's where we'll be flying in and out of. So it's a real easy in and out kind of thing, and we're hoping, as many of you know, Jake and I don't use a company. We do it all on our own. So it allows us a little bit more flexibility. So if we want to spend a little bit more time in one place, we have that flexibility, and we're not being told, like, get on this bus and look at that memorial through the window. Like, we get to walk, and the kids always say, it's the Oxford Walking Club, actually, because we walk a lot. But last time, like, 8 miles before noon because we were on the wrong side with a tour company. They dropped us on the wrong side, and we had to walk all the way around DC. From the Capitol building, they took us all the way around back out by RFK Stadium and all the way back in. So it was a long, long walk for literally like 2 seconds. We literally saw him put his hand on the Bible and take the oath. So it was like, we made it. But as far as for like security and things like that, we plan to take myself, Mr. Trotter, and then another chaperone to be determined. Mostly for security purposes. Obviously, with the climate of elections, it doesn't matter which way they go. There's probably going to be some climate issues with the election. So we always like to have a few, an extra body than we usually take for regular trips. So We're offering it to 20 students. We've only opened it to 20 students for that purpose, mostly for security purposes and flights. But we like to keep it small so that we can have that family essence type thing that we're really proud of, is creating a more of a family culture on these trips and things like that. So hopefully, we'll get your blessing, and we're really excited for this next trip that we're hopefully going to do.
Thank you so much. Any comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
5B, we have a request for reimbursement. I think that's for Mary, as she went to get some training done. Would someone like to make that motion? Please.
Move to approve the reimbursement request in the amount of $403.70 to Mary Hanser as presented.
Is there support, Chad support? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No, you're already there.
Hi, I'm Jill Lamont. This is Mark Stuckley. We were honored to represent Oxford in India last month, from January into February, on a student recruiting trip, and also really the main purpose of this particular trip was to work with the Ryan International Group, which is our new partner. So we were able to meet that goal, and we wanted to just tell you a little bit about it. So, can we drive for this? So we wanted to finalize that agreement. We also wanted to work on this relationship with Edu Excellence is another group that we work with of consultants. The owner and CEO is out of IIT Delhi, which is the #1 tech school in India. And he's a very well-renowned educational entrepreneur in that area. And we work with him and his staff now, in addition to our partner that we already have in the New York area. We were talking with them mostly about our virtual coursework, but also about full-time seated students at the high school. We met a new associate in Surat, which is another city within India, and we were actually able to interview some student candidates and meet with their parents, which is probably one of the most valuable pieces of a trip like that, is to put faces with names and actually create relationships with the families before the students decide to come. We had sort of a breakneck trip, which is good. We wanted to use every minute that we could to meet those goals.
Every minute.
Every minute. So every dinner, every meal, Mark and I were together for every minute of every day. Mark was quite a sport, because Mark was not initially going on the trip, and through a series of events, Mark was able to come with me, and I'm thrilled, because Mark is the counselor for our international students at the high school. And so he has the boots on the ground view of what they need to do to graduate, and maybe what holes they need to fill before they get here in terms of like language skills and things like that. And I think Mark was an enormous value added to the trip. He did most of the talking with the parents, and I kind of just sat there for part of it. So this is our first day, and we basically got there and fell asleep. If you want to go ahead.
So our first day, and once we got there, and we eventually did wake up, and someone ran for 5 miles while I just slept. We got to do a little bit of sightseeing, and so there's us. And then everywhere we went in India, Jill is like, they all want to take pictures with Jill. They actually got one with me, but then they said, okay, thanks, and then took me outside to Jill. In the middle, that's Himanshu. He is a gentleman from Edu Excellence. He is a genius. I feel smarter just being in the taxis with him. It was amazing. And then the Gateway of India. And then later on that night, we got to go meet the CEO of Ryan Group and began that relationship with her and her group, and she was amazing.
It almost felt like an audition that night. We met her in a hotel lobby, sort of unexpectedly. And if she liked us well enough, we would be invited to her school system the next day. So we got the invite, we got in, so we can go on to the next day. I think it was 2 days later we actually met with her. But we went to one of their elementary schools, and for me personally, I don't know about Mike, this was the most moving day of the trip. We got to see, because several of Ryan's schools, I think they said 2 or 3 are IB certified and have the PYP certification. So we went to the PYP exhibition. It just so happened that we were there. That wasn't part of the plan. and they wanted to show us. And we got to actually sit with kids and talk with kids, and if you want to show the next slide, please. Yeah, there's pictures of us with the kids. They presented to us, that picture on the far right is me being shamed because my carbon footprint is too big, so there are footprints on the ground, and the students asking me survey questions, and as you do the right things, you get to go in one direction, as you do the wrong things, you go in the other, and the whole class was watching as I slowly, dry my hair in the morning and start getting, but anyhow, the kids were so passionate, their language was native. I mean,
Yes.
they speak English at that school. It's an English medium school, so all the training is in English.
And for me, being a high school guy, it was just really cool to see the PYP, and it's just kudos to the elementary principals that I know that you guys do that here, and I was blown away.
And right in the middle of the day, they had promised us some sightseeing because we didn't really have much on our itinerary, so they threw us a Bollywood set in the middle of nowhere. And it really was in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't like we anticipated we would see like Hollywood, but it just was right in a suburb of the city in Bombay, or Mumbai. Yeah, they call it Bombay there still. And there's Mark. That's a very famous jail set. From a very famous movie that we were not familiar with, and that's the courtroom, and then me with all the Bollywood statues. So. We did get to present that same day, so we're still in the same day, folks. This is the kind of days we're talking about. So Mark and I are exhausted, and it's just now setting in the time change, and we had to present in front of the entire Ryan staff group at a different school within the city, and they met us with a parade. You can't really get the essence of that, but the students had a whole choreographed parade for us to show up.
With the reporters. That was awesome.
They do something with their hands. They had like a whole, like I said, choreographed, like clapping amongst them, a whole show for us. And then we presented to their teaching staff and their administrative staff. And we each got to plant a tree. That's about sustainable energy in their community. That's how you show, love for India, as you plant trees. So at every school we went to, we planted trees for Oxford.
Oh. And day 5 was my birthday.
Happy birthday!
I still can't believe you put that in there.
Mark loves attention, so all day was about Mark, and I had them sing to him at breakfast. They gave him flowers at the Ryan School, and you can go on, Ken, please. We actually did sign the partnership that day on Mark's birthday. That's me with the CEO on the left and right, and all of us with Himanshu in the center. And what does that mean? Well, we've had sister school relationships in the past. This is sort of like a mega sister school, if you will, because Ryan Group has nearly 200 schools across Ryan, Bangladesh, across India, Bangladesh, a few different other, Dubai. They're getting bigger and expanding. And so now that we have this relationship, they want to look at our curriculum and make sure their students are aligned with ours, and they can come here from any of their schools if they want to. They don't have the same fear as some of the smaller groups about losing students because they have so many to choose from. It's really something for their portfolio too to say they have an international partner and they want their students to come to us. So it was a really big win for us. We felt really at home there. It was just a really, really good vibe. Their vision and mission really met with Oxford's.
And they have about 15,000 students per grade.
Yeah.
So
they're not hurting for students.
And what's neat is they were really interested in not just sending here, but the collaboration of staff, teacher to teacher, and the student to student. And we're actually going to try and do some things with their students there and our students here. And actually, if Mrs. Merritt, she's not here anymore, but she's going to help us kind of develop an online platform to do a kind of a group project together, students in India and students here in Oxford.
So that night we jumped on a plane to Surat, and I had never been there before. That was a really neat new city. All of their cities seem so much bigger and so many more people, than we're used to. So this was waiting for us, this high school in USA. This individual on the left, Mr. Jayesh Gandhi, is another new partner there that we'll be working with. And he works in immigration law and has a lot of students who are interested in immigrating or those students who are non-immigrants also. So he's aware of the laws and he can discern between the two, which is a value added for us, a benefit to us. Because the students who are coming to us are those who are not meant to immigrate. They're ones who are coming to us for school and plan to go back to India. This is Tali. It's their native food from that particular region that we were able to try late. We had like a 10:30, 10:45 dinner after our flight, after that whole day that you saw. So. And that is us at the law office where we actually were meeting with students and parents, and I was able to do yoga with a professional yogi, which was exciting for me. So.
That was a great day, meeting all the different students. And actually these, put the 3 up already. These 3 up have already, we sent their acceptances. We got to meet with them there. We interviewed them. So impressed. Gio, who's on the right, was one of my favorites. Very interesting kid. His father is in importing and exporting of diamonds. And I'm like, you don't want to go in the diamond? No, I want to be computers. You know, so he was all about computers, and he was really neat.
It's us with more of the staff there that day. And then we went to Noida, which is not in that area. Now we're in Delhi.
Yep, we hopped on a plane. After that day meeting all those parents, hopped on a plane, and now we're in Delhi.
Noida, it was another location. Like I said, there's almost 200 Ryan schools, so it was yet another Ryan school campus. This session was with the educators in the morning, talking mostly about what Mark had discussed, doing the teacher-to-teacher and student-to-student collaboration online. That could lead to full-time students coming here, but that would sort of be a different entity unto itself. And we also had evening plans with the Sharma family, which is one of our students who's already graduated, who's graduating this year. Here we are planting another tree at that school and getting pinned. And then the family on the left-hand side, that's the Sachdeva family. Their son already graduated and is going to school in the States for college. And then the family in the center, their son is a senior this year at Oxford High School, the Sharma family. And they decked me and Mark out in Native Indian clothing and took us out on the town.
Yes.
Again, well into the evening. Where we were sleepwalking around. We were able to do this tiny bit of sightseeing in the early morning in Delhi at the Red Fort.
That's it?
Yep, that's it. And as we were walking around, they said, oh, we have more students for you to interview in the park. They had come from very far away and didn't make our original interview date, and they didn't want to miss us. So we met Mokal and another gentleman in the park. Go ahead.
Yeah, and there's us in France. Yeah, the students that we met in the park, very interesting, but it really shows why we have to interview them, because they were very good at the interview questions, but when you asked them something that wasn't quite on the interview, they weren't quite there. So it really helped us realize, that how important that interview is with those students to make sure that when they come here, they'll be successful. Because we don't want to bring students here and not be successful, and that's our goal. And then that same day, we hop on a plane, and 8 hours later, we're in France for an 8-hour walk around of Paris.
We made it almost to the Eiffel Tower, not
Almost
quite
there.
to the summit of the Eiffel Tower, and then had to race back to get on our flight. So where is the program going? We're going to run a virtual pilot this summer with the Ryan Group. We're going to make it available to just a small number of students to try virtual. The concept being the same as it was, has been in the past, that they should take courses like U.S. history or civics, courses that might not be available to them in India and in other countries, hopefully afterwards, where they get ready to come here as seniors. So when they come their senior year, they can take the most challenging courses and not be taking lower level courses because they couldn't take them when they were younger. That's kind of a run-on sentence, but prereqs, basically get them done online. We talked more with Edu Excellence about how they could support us, and they're going to have a mentor locally in India, provide that mentor role that we have, like the OVA secret sauce. They're going to try and do that for us stateside for them. And then student collaboration in the fall, Mark already talked about, and we hope to get a few full-time seated students from that relationship as well. We've accepted other J1 students from around the world. And we're looking at doing an educator camp. We're going to have some educators that want to come over this side, and we'd really like to send some Oxford teachers or Oxford administrators to Ryan Group. And it could be for any number of purposes. PYP is one thing that we've been discussing that they are really excited about and that we could have some synergy on. And program goals are the same. We're looking for 20 to 30 students maximum, keeping it small and the right size to make sure that we have diversity present and that we're really getting the family feel from these students. Any questions?
Any comments or questions?
Happy late birthday.
Thank you.
Dan?
So you just answered the one question, 20 to 30 students. Do we feel as though that the 20 to 30 students, that's a top number? We're not just gonna say, okay, 20 students, we're gonna pick 20 no matter what. They have to meet the criteria, correct?
Absolutely.
And that criteria is based on proficiency of the language and what else?
We have a rubric-based scoring guide for the interview that Mark was mentioning that we had. And we changed the questions purposely so that students can't just get a copy of our interview sheet from a friend. We also look at their records, so we get their 9th, 10th, and 11th grade scores. We have to have either a partner recommendation or a teacher recommendation if they're coming through an independent group. We get 2 teacher recommendations if it's an independent student. They have to show that they have the financial ability to pay for the program. That's a federal law. They have to do that. And then records, birth certificate, everything that they need for their visa has to be in place before they can even interview to come here with the State Department.
Do you have follow-up?
Follow-up. When are we looking for a first group from this?
From Ryan schools, we don't know if we'll have any for the fall, but it'll probably be the year after for full-time seated, but we're hoping to have those students in a virtual pilot this summer.
Heather?
So these are going to be F1 students?
The seated students will
The
be
seated
F1.
students will come here, live with a host family,
Correct.
and be an F1.
Yes.
Which, just to clarify, because there's always seems to be a lot of muddle there.
Yeah.
So an F1 student comes here, we receive their state allotted allowance in addition to a tuition,
Correct.
correct? Right, just to clarify.
And then we also accept J1 students, which
Okay.
we've accepted some, Steve Wolf and I have been reviewing students through a few different agencies that we already know are reputable exchange agencies. And we have some students coming from other countries, so it's our ability to kind of get a little bit more diversity too.
In the J1, they pay strictly tuition.
They do not.
They do not
Not
pay
pay
tuition.
They do not pay tuition.
That's
So
the
the funding
difference.
comes from
State Foundation.
State foundation.
State Foundation
Only.
only.
It's more of like exchange.
But for those
Yeah.
students, we don't find them a host family, they work with the
Correct.
agency.
The
We're just
agency
providing the
finds
education
Like an,
piece.
like an exchange student, old school exchange student concept, right?
Yeah.
Is this set up that where students here could go over there?
They're
Or is it
desperate
just-
for our students to come over there.
Oh.
Absolutely.
And what would that cost be for a student?
Well, we're trying to work, we're gonna have to work with the high school and see what the interest level is and how many students. I can speak to the safety because we were there and I would not have any concerns about them staying on the campuses of these schools. Would we want them on the school campus? Would we want them with the host family? Would we want an adult to be with them probably? So those are some of the things that we've been thinking about. I don't know about costs because we don't know how long students want to stay. We were talking about maybe getting some students to go to, they have an art camp that's coming up in, I think it's December. Is that
December, well,
right?
competition almost.
A competition for the arts, and we're looking at possibly sending a small student group as like ambassadors so they can speak to others and get our kids more comfortable with the concept of staying for maybe a semester. But we haven't looked at cost because I don't know the length of the stay.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. Next is the strategic planning presentation. Mr. Throne, I have to make an emergency phone call, so I'll be back in.
Okay. So, thank you, everyone. I am going to back up on the slide here and start with this. And just remind everybody that this is available on our website. This is what we've been working on for a number of years, and it is really that whole strategic alignment piece, all the way over here from our inputs, whether it's environmental, community, students, parents, Department of Ed, federal, state level, all that kind of stuff. our mission, our vision, our values, our beliefs. And this middle portion is really what is most commonly referred to as what people think of as the strategic plan. That is where you are looking at specific goal areas, all in trying to achieve our goal of delivering on our portrait of a graduate. And so I want to remind everybody tonight when we talk specifically about the strategic plan, that is this portion right here. So specifically policies, budgets, people, all that kind of stuff, what goes into a traditional strategic plan. The other thing that I want to make sure that I highlight is that this is an ongoing process, right? So every time we think we have an initiative, we run it through our values, our beliefs. How are we going to implement this? We need to implement it the right way. How does that coincide with our policies? How does that help us produce our portrait of a graduate? And so really I want you to be reminded that this is an ongoing process, even though it is a strategic plan. This has been posted on our website as of tonight, and we have 3 goal areas or target areas. One is curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Another area we refer to as organizational culture. You could think of it really as human capital or people. And then the third target area is school culture, and you could think of that as more of your traditional operations, safety, policies, procedures, things like that. Within each target area, we have 4 strategic initiatives under curriculum and instruction. We have 3 of them under organizational culture, and we also have 4 of them under school culture. And under each strategic initiative, we have different strategies identified for those. And we also, under each strategy, identified the portrait of a graduate characteristic that we are aiming towards and bringing out. And so I don't want to read to you all of this, which has already been supplied, but this is really our game plan for the next 3 to 5 years on how we move our organization, more of the nuts and bolts of how we get from where we are today to being able to deliver on that portrait of a graduate 3, 4, 5 years from now. We also have to roll this out internally. So Ad Team has been working on this for quite some time, and so we need to allow our administrators to communicate this out to the buildings, have the buildings understand where we're at and what we're working on. And so that communication piece has yet to take place. But we wanted to get this out to the board before we went any further. And then lastly, again, no matter if it's a new initiative or something ongoing that we do every year, like a budget process, we have to continually run that through our vision and our mission, and we're looking at what are those competencies that we're trying to ultimately see in our graduates, as well as what are those conditions that we're trying to create in order for that learning to take place. And that is our portrait. So sort of beginning to end. I know I was quick, but that is our strategic plan. Are there any comments or questions?
I had one. Oh, go ahead. You want to go first? Go.
I'll go first. It really is, although it was a quicker presentation, having gone through it earlier, it was very well put together in regards that we've taken this strategic plan that we started, 8, 9 years ago, that was this big picture, and we've condensed it to this. And it's really targeted to what we're looking for as a student goes through our district. And that's important because it's not just a bullet point. There's meat and potatoes on this. And not that there wasn't before, but it's kind of narrowed down now. And I think it kind of helps as we paint the picture for families coming into the district, because I think that's important as our community grows, that they know exactly where we're trying to go as a district. And so it's very well put together.
Thank you. If you think about it, in some regards, we're really just going to the end, looking at that portrait and working backwards and saying, if this is true and this is what we want to create, what do we have to do with our curriculum in order to get us there? What kind of buildings and facilities do we have to have? What does that teaching and learning process look like in order for all of that to come through to fruition? And so there are very specific things that we've put in here for certain reasons. You know, somebody, I'll throw out an example. Somebody may say, well, why on earth are you paying money in your bond to put air conditioning in classrooms? You're just doing that because that's what people want or that kind of thing. Well, if you look at the entire plan, because we need to start earlier, because of safety concerns, because of how our buildings are laid out, we can't just keep windows and doors open like we used to. And so if we want to create a condition in which those students can learn and those teachers can teach, and if safety is at the highest of our values, then there are specific reasons why we're creating those conditions and putting in air conditioning. It's not just a random act or something that we just think, oh, this is something good to do, let's just go do it. All of those actions that we are taking are very calculated, and we've worked through them many times to try and refine them. So.
Can I come on?
Sure.
One of the things that really stuck out to me was valuing people and developing their skills. We've had this conversation quite often that we want to be the district where teachers can come and say, this is where leaders are created. And you can now see it, where we used to have that attitude where, boy, we really don't want people from other districts to come in and take our best employees, but you know, that's a point of pride now. I mean, we've had quite a number of teachers or administrators leave, go on to be superintendents, building principals, and that should be a point of pride because we're doing the things that we say we're doing in our strategic plan. So we need to develop leaders because we're not going to always be here forever. So,
yes, sir.
So first, thank you, Tim and team for working on this. There's a lot of work that went into this. Could you talk to us just for a minute on what processes are in place to measure our success against this plan? I know that each of the principals as we visit, they're sharing survey results. What are we taking from that? And then, you know, I guess, are all of these, do you think all of these controls are considered in those surveys, or is there another mechanism that we would use to measure success?
So definitely some of these would be a part of those annual surveys and collecting of that data, but there's also definitely metrics outside of those surveys that we are planning on using to evaluate how well we deliver on these. I'll just say that while privately we have put together rubrics for timetables, responsibility levels, and all those types of things. We are, and I am certainly not comfortable making that public, at least not at this point. And so we haven't chosen to do that.
That's right. Thank you.
Yep.
The one thought that I had was, there's been at least a couple board meetings now where the teacher's response is that the staff development, I would imagine that the Portrait of a Graduate and the whole shift has to become part of that environment, right? Because that's where you're gonna create the culture. Does that make, right? Am I right?
Absolutely. So besides identifying Portrait of Graduate characteristics within your strategic documents, Ken and I have already talked about all the way down to the level of, I think you'll start to see as curriculum is adopted, written, and brought to the board, there'll be areas within that curriculum that say, okay, if I'm in this unit of study, what might be those Portrait of a Graduate characteristics that we would expect to see or that we're working on during this unit?
Good.
And we're identifying that, whether it's, within the writing of the curriculum or, all during those stages.
Good, because I would imagine that just like you pop in IB stuff and we get to see it,
Correct.
we should be seeing Portrait of a Graduate stuff
Correct.
as we develop.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes?
Thank you for putting Portrait of a Graduate out into this. This is a lot, and I get this, and it gives me something, and as a board, I think it gives us something to measure, some place to start, because I was just looking through some of the materials, just trying to put the last year together and how things flow, and I'm trying to figure out where to measure these things so the students are served, staff is served, students are served, when there's clear goals, when there's clear directions. So I really appreciate this. I think this is really helpful for staff, and it'll be helpful for us. And look how we talk about culture in 2 of the target areas, because that's how the first target area gets built up. I think that's fantastic. Thank you.
Dan?
So Chad, I guess, how do you measure, right? It's tough, and it seems don't want to share that right now, but I think one of the things as a community and as a board, what we kind of have to trust the process as it happens. One of the things that we always have the ability to do is listen, fact find on our own, whether you want to or whether you don't. You look at the Facebook threads, and I'm going to bring it up because I saw it today. There was a mom in the Oxford Forum that was debating between sending her child to a private school or, and this was probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I just stumbled on it now, and either DA, and there, at the point that I read it, there were 65 comments. And it's very, very rare that you have 65 comments that are all positive. Not one person had a negative thing to say about our district. And they compared, if you're looking for private, that's good, but here's what Oxford has to offer. And that was grandparents that had kids in the district. They said, I had my grandparents or my grandchildren in the district. I have a teacher, and my daughter's a teacher, from all different angles. And it's important for us to realize that our community is really understanding, and our community is really getting behind our district. And I think that's another way to measure what we're doing as far as our curriculum, all the things that we've invested in, parapros, our staff. And I've always said, the most important things that I care about or that we should be focused on are our staff and our students, because if the staff's happy, they come in, they take care of our students, they give them the best education that we can possibly afford to give them, and then when the kids go home, hey, how was school? And if they're anything like mine, well, we didn't do anything today, but usually the kids they're happy, they're telling their parents are happy, and their parents are happy. So those are the things that we should always be looking at, kind of have our ears open too when we're out and about. You know, just a way we can measure things too. It's not foolproof, but it's
Yeah.
good when people are happy.
I agree. I would never devalue that.
Mhm.
I just, you know, and I wasn't necessarily looking for specific examples of measurements, but I just wanted to, I mean, I guess in my mind, any part of a strategic plan would include some level of
Yes.
measurement, right? Just so we know,
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
without
just
a
to make
doubt.
sure, right?
Without a doubt.
I agree.
Yeah.
Measurables are.
But I tell you what,
paramount.
though, I've seen Facebook posts like that, and a lot of pride bubbles
Mhm.
when you see that, and it's really should be a source of pride for all of us. Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you. Thank you, sir. Do you want to go right into the next?
I do, I think I'm gonna sit down for this though.
Uh-oh.
So, as most of you know, Oxford was mentioned. Ken, if you could just leave that up there just for a second. Oxford was mentioned in a Bridge article this past, actually a week ago today, this past Tuesday. And I think that while the article in and of itself really didn't have a lot of negative things to say about Oxford, the author put a picture of our virtual academy, put pictures of our staff, put all of these things about Oxford, to then go on to say how these other schools maybe haven't delivered the best education possible. And not really say anything about Oxford, but just have our pictures up there. And so I think the perception, definitely, that most readers probably walked away with was either, well, why is Oxford's name front and center, and you really don't say anything bad, you don't necessarily say anything really great, you mention Oxford in the article, but the article is really about these other school districts. And so I think because of that, that conflict, I have been conflicted personally on the proper way that I wanted to respond. And so I had prepared a pretty lengthy response that I was going to post in the comments section, and decided that probably wasn't the best thing to do. I then had a really short response that I was going to put in the comment section, and thankfully I didn't post that one either. I think a couple of things. One, we have had time to reach out and talk to the people at NPR, because NPR also on Tuesday had this author on their show, and so I was getting phone calls from superintendents on the other side of the state saying, hey, what's going on? Oxford's on NPR, and you know, what's the deal? And so we have reached out to them, and hopefully we'll be able to go on their show here soon, as well as reaching out to Bridge, and that they have allowed me to submit an op-ed article on whatever topic that I wish. And so while I still feel like Oxford needs to address somewhat the article that was published, it's definitely different today than how it was a week ago. And so I think the other thing that I really want people to know too is that if you take Oxford out of the equation and you really try to get at the meat of what the writer was trying to say, I think it was captured by an individual at the Macomb ISD who, in one of the quotes, it basically came down to, well, this money could be better spent a different way, is really the summary of what he was trying to say. And so I think that part of my response is to address that mindset that somehow if Oxford is successful in these certain ways, then that must mean that these other districts are not successful in certain ways. And that's simply a wrong mindset. You can have a zero-sum game mindset when it comes to sports. So tomorrow night when our varsity boys basketball team plays Clarkston, there is going to be a winner, which constitutes that there's going to be a loser. Okay, that doesn't happen in education. Do I want the best education delivered for every Oxford student? Absolutely. Is that winning for Oxford? Yeah, it is. Does that mean or require then that Clarkston students lose in their education if Oxford students win in theirs? Absolutely not. But that is the mindset of many people. And so I think that is part of the bigger topic that I want to address. I specifically asked President Donnelly to have this on our agenda tonight because I did want to make recognition of the article publicly and that we are not ignoring it or brushing it under the rug. We will address it, but I want to make sure that we do it in the most professional way possible and not a way in which I regret. So I think I'll just...
Not a knee jerk for you.
I'll just stop right there and, yeah, say that more to come on this topic, but I think the other reason why I wanted to leave this up is that I think other schools, other ISDs, I think the state, I think other people are watching as to how this is going to play out. And the reason why I say that is because the larger you do work in systems, so whether you've got a school district, whether you've got a school district of 2,000 kids, 8,000 kids, 20,000 kids, then you've got ISDs of 100,000 kids, and then you start talking about systems that impact the entire educational system of the state of Michigan and what MDE is trying to do. You have to have alignment. People are not going to trust what you say. They're going to trust how you spend your money. They're going to trust your actions. And the better you align with how you spend your money and what you do and how you do it with what you say, that is when trust is built. And that is when you really start to build traction and achieve alignment on big scales. Why do you have to have that alignment on big scales? If you don't, it is really, really hard, almost impossible to move the needle at all, whether you're talking about student achievement or anything else that you're going to measure. It's almost impossible to do. And so at our level and our district, we need to be constantly reminded that this alignment piece is really important to us. Whether it's small decisions, medium-sized decisions, big decisions on spending large amounts of money or little amounts of money, or spending teacher time on preparation or what have you, it has to be aligned to our overall plan. When that happens, you get traction and you get movement. So, okay, I'm sorry, I'm done preaching. I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Can I just, I'm not going to give an opinion on anything in one way or another, but when I looked at it, or when I read it and I listened, I really wasn't taken aback as much. I mean, I knew what was said and I kind of understood it. But I kind of looked at it maybe from a little bit different angle than what you did, Tim. And I was kind of proud of the fact that they would come to our district, take pictures of how we're doing it right, and saying, this is how you're doing it. And yeah, all these other people are doing, all these other districts might be doing a little bit different, maybe they're not providing the right type of education, but I think it really kind of pointed out that we have a facility, or multiple facilities, and we have an actual principal that is there day in, day out. We have teachers, we have a robust amount of staff, but I understand what you're saying, because I think in today's world, we look at 30-minute snippets, and we don't grasp the whole thing. And not everybody is as in-depth as maybe what we are, but that's just how I viewed it. I came away from it somewhat proud that we're at the top of the list with what we do. But I understand your point as well.
Anyone else? All right. Curriculum and instruction, Mr. Weaver.
Got first a motion, actually 2 motions in a row.
Got a couple of them. All right. Someone want to put the first one on the table? Yes, Dan.
Move to approve the K-12 PE curriculum as previously presented.
Is there support? Mary, support? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Dan, you want to do the second one?
Sure. I'm a little bit, we have a B here, grade 6 through 8 science curriculum. It's the same.
It's the motion's right under it.
Okay, move to approve, thank you. Move to approve grade 6-8 science curriculum as previously presented.
Is there support? Corey, support? Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. ELA 9 through 12 curriculum update.
Yeah, the English department at the high school has been working for the last about year and a half, maybe a little bit longer, putting everything together. They had purchased resources and kind of put everything back together in units for grades 9 through 12, and they are going to present that work tonight. I'm going to have Mrs. Darnell and her group, Mrs. Kavita, Mrs. DeRiker, Mrs. Gibbons, and is Mrs. Chapman, are you coming up too?
I'm in the cheering.
You're a cheering section, all right. Well, cheer away for them. And so they've been working extremely hard to put the curriculum all together, and they're going to show you the fruits of their labor.
So before we start, it's pretty rare that when we get up in front of the board, and I just like to do a couple of introductions so you're familiar with some faces, names to faces. So I'm Molly Darnell. I'm the Middle Years Program IB Coordinator / ELA Coach.
I'm Jacqueline Kavina. I teach English Language Arts 10 and 12.
I'm Renee DeRiker. I teach English Language Arts 9 and 11.
And Melissa Gibbons, English Language Arts 11 and 12.
So you want to go ahead and start, Angela? Or do you want me to run the clicker?
I've been doing it pretty good. I think.
So, good evening and thank you for your time. As mentioned, approximately 2 years ago, we presented on and received approval for the purchase of our springboard materials, and we're going to just give you a little update on our process. So in the fall of 2017, we explored the College and Career Readiness Standards, Common Core, and the research behind them. So we built our departmental why. In other words, we wanted to take a look at what we believed our portrait of an English language arts student was and is, so we can prepare them and make them college and career ready once they graduate. So as a team, and I have to say our English Language Arts Department, there are 12 of us, and Molly get along fabulously. So when we work together on these things, there's a lot of synergy. So we identified our curriculum holes 9 through 12. We took a look at any gaps and redundancies in order to best scaffold what our students learn throughout their years at Oxford, and work with that in the curriculum. So spring of 2018, we reviewed our resource options. We as teachers piloted 2 resources, Springboard, which is by College Board, and My Perspectives by Pearson. Springboard is the one that has been purchased already. And then we moved in since the fall of 2018, spring 2019, and still on. Each grade level gets together as a team and looks at the curriculum, writes it, puts it in Atlas, and we're constantly tweaking and making sure that, we're covering everything that we need to do for our kids.
Well, just sample it. So one of the things that we have for you is the
some of the skills that spiral, basically the entire ELA curriculum K-12 is a spiraling program, so it doesn't matter where you are in 9th grade or 10th grade or 11th or 12th grade, that the skills are all the same, they just become more sophisticated as you get older. And so one of the things that we decided to show you here is for the high school, one of the key components that we look at is argumentative writing and argumentative speaking. So these are just some of the key units that I handed out to you that deal with argumentative skills, both in writing and speaking. And it's just escalated every year. The students are expected to know a little bit more in regards to their production, and not just in their production, but also identifying authors' choices and how authors use them, which is definitely hit hard in SAT. We're hoping that over the next few years, by switching to Springboard and by laying out argumentative writing and speaking, we will definitely see a lot more success with our SAT scores. So Jacqueline has, in 10th grade, we have a unit to kind of share with you. Jacqueline is the one who teaches 10th grade here.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
All right, so this is our very last unit, actually, of the entire year. So it's our second semester, and it's called Building Cultural Bridges. One of the topics that we study particularly a lot in 10th grade is culture, and so we actually explore that topic in various different ways. And like I said, this is the very last unit that they, or that we work on at the end of the year. And so they actually create a documentary film. And in order to do that, we look at different features of documentary films, and we study bias, and we look at objective and subjective points of view. We study rhetorical appeals, ethos, pathos, and logos. We then also look at common fallacies, and then try to avoid those, because once they start writing their documentary film or start creating that, we want to make sure that we're keeping fallacies out of their writing so that they can establish credibility. And so, in particular, the documentary film is actually about the environment. So they pick an environmental issue, and it says at the very bottom there that they design and create a short 5-minute documentary film, and then they call for action related to an environmental issue while maintaining objectivity and considering the target audience. So it really allows them to collaborate, be creative with their classmates. We do watch them. Every teacher does it a little bit differently, but we do watch them. It also allows for some research and a different method of writing, because they're writing more for a movie than they are for an essay. And so we actually have an example of one. Some example topics for deforestation, invasive species. This one is the collapse of the colony, like the bee depletion. And so we're going to watch like 2 minutes. About 2 minutes. Just to give you an example.
We're really hoping for sound here, folks.
No, there's no sound. There should be sound. There's music. It's background.
Buzz.
This is the story of the bee.
There we go.
The bee pollinates
Oh, yeah.
everything, from flowers to trees.
Well, that's you.
Pretty good, all right. Here we have bees collecting honey.
Yeah.
I can continue if you want.
Fantastic.
The bee is in the hive. This bee has an itch. There we go.
Bees, one of the many living species that inhabit our planet. Did you know that approximately 1/3 of the food you eat is pollinated by bees? In fact, bees play an extremely vital role in our environment and the natural world around us. But things are beginning to change. Over time, many have noticed that bees are dying at record rates, with up to 30% dying each year. This means the threat is real and it's close. You may wonder, what is causing this phenomenon? What is causing our bees to die? Well, in this documentary, we will answer these questions and teach you everything you need to know about bees so that we can ensure they remain part of our ecosystem for as long as it exists. The first thing we had to do was put together a team. So we assembled a group of some of the best researchers we could find. Together, we were able to learn more about the disappearing of bees. Statistics, theories, charts, graphs, it was all there, but we needed more. So we decided that if we were going to learn the truth about what's going on, we're going to need to speak to a professional.
We just wanted to give you a little sample of what goes on, so the remainder is.
Yeah, they go to a bee.
Apiary.
Yeah,
Yes.
beekeepers.
Yeah.
So it really allows them to, voice, it allows them to have a voice on a topic, and really to become more knowledgeable and kind of inform somebody else, right? Try to promote a change in regard to whatever environmental topic they choose.
And so the last thing I just want to kind of reiterate, I know we came here about 18 months to 2 years ago to introduce Springboard as being our text. Just wanted to kind of remind you of where we were at and kind of where that spending is. So the purchase of Springboard, our core text, and then some future costs that we're going to have will be our future editions of Springboard, which had already been budgeted in. And we're going to add some additional novels. We're really looking at adding some diversity and some student voice, like students seeing themselves in text a little bit more. And so some additional novels as well to help with that. Questions?
Yes, sir.
So I read through all the curriculum PDFs, and just real quick, it was probably the best curriculum packet I've ever read. It was very detailed, and I appreciated that. One key takeaway for me is it's a lot of material to get through in 38 weeks. So how do you keep that cadence up?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because when we went through our training, the woman that trained us on Springboard said, if you do every activity in every unit, it would take 2.5 years.
Yep.
So that's why we've worked so hard together as not only team, like 9th grade team, 10th grade team, but scaffolded across to say what transferable skills do we want to make sure that we are scaffolding on for these students to have. So can we do every activity? No. But we're trying to utilize and take the ones that I think that we feel would best service them and prepare them the best as they advance throughout the grades. So writing will always be a key component, reading will always be a component, and we're still tweaking that. We might have some informational text, and now we're going to bring in some anchor text to kind of pair with that. I like to talk, so
And I was just going to say, and that was why that front-loading work that we did in the beginning was so important. Like, what's our why as an ELA team? And what are the current holes that we have in our curriculum? How does that align with the Common Core? So, so we really kind of had like an understanding of where we were headed and as a team where we wanted to go. So I think that was helpful as well in making those curricular decisions.
So the American Dream section, I liked it, I liked the material, but I guess I'm kind of wondering what led you to that, to have a subject just on the American Dream?
So the entire 11th grade curriculum focuses in on like the journey of an American. So it starts with, there's a lot of historical text within the first unit. It didn't have a core text, which is why we want to bring back The Great Gatsby as our core text, but there's a lot of what the Common Core calls U.S. seminal texts, which are historical documents that we look at the framers of the country and how they envisioned the American dream, and then how it's changed, and then the students have to, at the end of the first unit, does the American dream still exist today, and what does that look like for everybody? So as we go through every unit, some element of the American Dream is present. We just finished the 4th unit about the pursuit of happiness. So what does happiness look like for everybody? Is it different? How do you, and the students had to write an essay where one of their options, they could write about their own personal journeys to happiness. And then our last unit will focus in on the Harlem Renaissance era and the story of Their Eyes Were Watching God, and how, we talk a lot about Zora Neale Hurston as a writer, and how she was kind of ostracized from the Black community because she actually viewed the Harlem Renaissance differently from everybody else that she was around. So really, a lot of it focuses from the American journey. Years ago, 10th grade was American literature. That is now since moved to 11th grade. So most districts, especially those who are really looking at Common Core, have American literature within the 11th grade year.
Did you have another one?
Yeah, real quick. I know I read it all. So the perception versus perspective section. So was that geared towards the 12th grade? I'm wondering maybe because kids that age have a hard time understanding the difference. I mean, I'm 52. I have a hard time understanding the difference.
No, I think part of this is directly from Springboard, like their terminology. So that perspective, but within the 12th grade unit, 12th grade units, they have the students really look at the critical theory lenses. So how does a historical critic look at it? How does a feminist critic look at it? So the students, by the time they get through 12th grade, will have gone through all these different lenses, and then really, most importantly, I think to them, is that reader response. How do they view things? What are they going to look at? And so we're kind of, still building on that for them.
Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else? Yes, Dan.
So Springboard started that process a couple years ago. And this is really more of a question for Sam and Tim. So as we use tools like Springboard, and we saw there's a placeholder in our budget for $19.95 is the cost, correct, per student? So what do we do when 2 years ago we've put that $19.95 in for student? We had, let's just use a number of 100 students using it. And as we grow, is that automatically built into the growth numbers?
What happens is...
Sam raises my budget.
I raise his budget. So annually...
It gets his wallet out.
Not my wallet, as a custodial of the district funds, but all the departments submit their budgets to me with justifications, and this is one of those justifications, obviously. And so what we would do is, if we can afford it, we obviously increase the budget for curriculum instruction.
And that's where my concern is at. What happens when we can't? Do we cut students out of the opportunity?
The short answer is no. The short answer is we're an educational institution or a public school district. That is first and foremost, along with safety, what we fund.
So...
And we have not been in that situation yet.
I know.
I'm thankful that we haven't been in that situation, but if we were to be in that situation, Cabinet would sit down and we would decide on how we would prioritize our expenditures in order to make things like this important topic happen.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure. Right? Because I think
it's a good question.
Anyone else?
The comment was made about this program increasing the SAT scores. How are we tracking that? I mean, obviously it's not going to be the first year or second year, but do we have a goal or hey, in 2 years we hope to see scores of this, 3 years of this, to say, yeah, this is a worthwhile investment, or hey, after 4 years, scores are still here, it's not?
Well, this is something that Mr. Wolf works with his school improvement team or his ILT team, whichever they're calling it at the time at the high school. But they work on school improvement and they set goals. And currently, and I answered Mr. Foster's questions on the district improvement. I mean, right now the state of Michigan's got it all tore up. It's like a work under construction completely. It's worse than M24. And so we're kind of like waiting for them to get it all back together to kind of move forward with that. We actually have a meeting on Thursday of this week with the school improvement teams across the district to kind of talk a little bit about this. but that is really, really incumbent upon the schools and them setting those type of school improvement goals, looking at what percentage of kids are college and career ready. On the SAT, they would also look at, for example, trying to get ready and benchmark it along the way with the PSAT. And that's one thing that's really nice about what the state has done. I know we don't think they do a lot right, but that's one of the things that at least they did right, was they have the PSAT in 8, 9, 10, which leads into and directly correlates to the SAT, all research-based and completely valid and everything else, and it really gives you some nice data to come back, although they're changing the data piece, but I don't want to get all into that. But anyways, but that's really about the school improvement process. They work on departmental goals. They also work on individual instructional goals. They tie it into their student growth and their SLOs and stuff like that. And we're really working to try to bring this all together within the school improvement process along with their student growth goals, and tying those together to try to get the most bang for your buck to try to see how that improves. Because if you have college or high school kids, you know that SAT score is also tied to college entrance, scholarships, and everything else that goes along with that. So it's a pretty important marker, a pretty important test score that we look at all the time.
Good, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really quick, I would like to thank them. This has been awesome. ELA teacher myself, I get, more than 8 or 10 ELA teachers in a room, and good heavens, you can kill an hour just debating what staff you're having. I mean, they are an awesome group. They've done fantastic work, and I'm really excited as we've gone through the last few cycles of curriculum revision. They've done a fantastic job in trying to get all the teachers on the same page. That is something that we haven't had in Oxford. We are getting ever closer to really having that guaranteed and viable curriculum, where as you look at the curriculum, there's a lot more consistency between teachers. They all deliver it great, they all deliver it in a fantastic way, and we're not asking them to all do it in the exact same way, but we're trying to make sure that we all cover all the same major learning targets and topics and themes throughout, and they have done a fantastic job. They are awesome. So, just like
Thank
you.
And they have the best cheerleader.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Barna,
Good evening.
want us to step into the recommendations?
Yes, please, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Would someone like to take care of the 2019-2020 motion? Yes, Chad.
Move to approve the 2019-2020 general fund amended budget as presented.
Support? Eric, support? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Safety update.
So in front of you, or in your board packet, we have a list of agenda items under safety and security, the first of which is the Stop the Bleed kits as well as the panic buttons. And so I wanted to just mention to everyone that in every school, the Stop the Bleed kits have been installed, and they also are now packed with the actual kits themselves. And they will be receiving stickers on each of those boxes as well, just to let everyone know what's inside the boxes, as well as a warning to those that open those boxes and break the actual sticker, that it is obviously offense if they do that. So I just want everyone to be aware that that is definitely in all of the buildings right now. In addition to the fact that we are currently in possession of half of the allotted 420 panic buttons that we ordered. The rest we are waiting for, but because of the virus and the issues that we're experiencing with the supply chain, we're basically waiting for the remainder of the order. And so how we're going to disseminate we think we're going to disseminate the existing 210 panic buttons to the elementary schools first. And then once we receive the second portion of the order, we will obviously fulfill all the rest of the district. So I just wanted everyone to be aware. We're still currently, pre-plan is testing the hardware for the panic buttons. Several of the buildings have passed. The high school as well as the middle school are still, to my knowledge, being tested at this particular point, so we are not finalized with that yet. So I wanted to give everyone that update as far as the safety kits as well as the panic buttons go.
Can I ask a quick question about the panic?
Sure,
I'm
if
sorry.
we're on that subject, sure.
Yeah. Okay, break down the panic button. Did you say 200 and what?
So there's 210 that we've received, but the actual key fob, panic button, or the duress buttons, we ordered 420.
Okay,
And so, but because of,
so there'll be one in each classroom?
there's going to be one in each classroom, but in addition to that, there's going to be several throughout the administrative offices in each building, so on and so forth. Yeah. So yes,
In all the schools?
correct.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Some of the things that you're working on right now have to be done by a certain date. The bill's got to be paid by a certain date. The fact that things are being delayed outside of your control, how are we making sure that we
Yeah.
still spend the money at the right time?
So I'm going to be reaching out to the state, who is actually administering the 2019 safety grant, to ask them that very question, in case we do have a delay, a further delay, past the expected date of June 1st. As I had mentioned to you probably several times, and I'm sure you're probably nauseated by me telling you this, but we do have to have these funds spent by June 1st of this year.
Yeah.
In order to be receiving full reimbursement of
Right.
75%. So I will be reaching out to
Yeah,
answer
give us an
questions.
update on what you find.
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Of course.
Anything else on that subject? All right, next. Are you good, Dan?
None.
Okay.
Second, I just wanted to mention to everyone that we actually, through Jill's coordination with our administrative group, we've actually, last week, trained our administrative team on not only the use of the duress buttons, but also Stop the Bleed in and of itself. And so if you don't mind, if I could bring Jill up here
Yeah,
and kind of discuss
please.
some of that training, not only what we've had last week, but also what we plan on having district-wide concerning AED, CPR, Stop the Bleed, and the duress buttons. Jill?
So yeah, last week, we had the pre-plan team come in, both Dan Flanders and another two folks that work for him, and provided the training for our entire administrative team staff on the pre-plan live buttons, and also the Stop the Bleed kits, the One Alert application for our phones. So it's different whether it's an Android or an Apple, and we went through all the intricacies of that and just the nuances and made sure that our administrative team has a good handle on how we're gonna roll this out to staff. And then actually earlier today, I was in conversation by email with everyone about how we're going to roll it out to staff. So the pre-plan team is gonna come into different buildings, staff meetings, and provide them the same or similar training for the teacher, staff groups. We're gonna be inviting secretaries and parapros to come into those as well. We did videotape the training. I know we talked about having that video available to new staff and other staffing groups like coaches and things like that. The quality of it is not perfect just because of the way in which we were presenting with the projector, and it was darker in the room. We're probably gonna do a more professional version of the video, but for the time being, our administrative team has access to that video as well as a Stop the Bleed video if they have anyone they need to train before the fall. And by fall, we'll have it in safe schools. I've been working with Dave Pass to make sure we do that. So it'll be a mandatory training video for anybody new coming to the district, and we think we're gonna make it compulsory for staff to refresh on an annual basis, just the quick, it'll have night locks, Stop the Bleed, the basics of Stop the Bleed. You could have a whole day training on Stop the Bleed, but this is just the quick basics. We're also having CPR training next week. There's 2 different dates we made available, part of the grant that we got from the 4 communities. So Anita got a grant from them, and I did as well separately. Part of my grant was for 2 additional AED machines, and with the purchase of those 2 AED machines, we get training for up to 50 staff members in CPR and AED. So those are taking place next week. We've invited all the building administrators along with head secretaries, and then we actually had a few extra slots, so we have a few other just building level staff that are coming in for that training. I think that's it for training, but I did want to mention Project Adam. So we're talking with University of Michigan. All of these enhancements of our AEDs and our safety protocol and our emergency operations plan and our drills schedule, we're going to start employing an AED drill within our school year annually. Pretty much checks off almost every box for this protocol.
What is that, Jill?
It's a protocol called Project Adam through University of Michigan. And it's basically being a heart-safe school, being a school environment that's
That like an acronym for something? I feel like I've heard it before, but.
it's a student's name from, I believe, Wisconsin was
Okay.
Adam, but then it also is an acronym, and I apologize, I don't recall
Okay,
what it
yeah.
stands for, but the student who.
Something about cardiac support.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And we basically tick all the boxes already. And so I've been working with the gal at the University of Michigan to make sure that we can do that certification. The application is due in May, so I want to make sure we get those drills going. But that's the only thing that we're really missing at this point. Everything else we have. So you have to have 10% of your staff trained. Once we have these 50 folks trained, we're already close to that number now. Once we get 50 more, we'll be all set. And then for the flip charts, I had mentioned to you all a while back that we were looking at our flip charts, that, you know, those blue emergency packets that are in all the classrooms and public spaces. They're no longer 100% correct because we've had so many safety updates and invested so much in security. And so we worked with Oakland County Sheriffs, Sam and myself, along with high school and middle school administration, to make sure that we were able to update those accordingly and with regard to the law as well as safety in our own processes. And we just ordered those this week. So in about 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to be replacing all of those district-wide as well.
Yes?
This is just something that somebody brought up to me, and I was curious since we're kind of talking about it. Do we have defibrillators in each building, or do some buildings have defibrillators?
Every building.
I had a parent stop at the grocery store with a big story about that, and I was like, I really realized I did not know that.
Every building, the high school has.
Every building
High
has
school has
a
4.
What?
The high school has 4.
Oh.
Crossroads has them.
Oh.
Transportation has its own.
Okay.
Maintenance has its own. Yeah.
And who is qualified in the building to manage that, to do that?
To use the machine, or, so that's why we're doing this training, to make sure that everyone feels empowered. Most of us received the training back when we went through our certification programs.
Okay.
But not everyone has kept it up. So our coaches have it, like Jordan Ackerman has it, you know, certain administrators have it throughout the district. Anne over at the early childhood must keep it for her certification.
Sure.
But we thought it was important that all of us get refreshed on it, and then also empower our front office folks to use it as well, since in an emergency they would be a likely
person,
responder,
right?
right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, I see the kid over there hung up by the blue thing.
Yes. Flip chart.
Yes.
Huh?
Jill, I think you said earlier, you said that the training videos, you were gonna put in the Safe School. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Help me, and I don't remember hearing anything about Safe School. What
So
is-
that's a warehouse for training videos, and we already have like our bloodborne pathogens video in there, and I don't know if they want to speak much, but it's just got a bunch of different training videos in there that we can require people to watch. It's like a warehouse for the video.
Okay, is that all stuff that we don't produce all of that?
No, we don't produce any of it, I don't think, or most of it right now.
Okay.
So.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Anything else?
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item on the safety update is also the 3M window film installation, and I kind of wanted to give an update on that and say that the window film installation, the film itself has been installed at all buildings. What is left, however, is the final caulking around the window panes as well as the door panes which have the window film. And so that's going to be occurring by the organization that is actually completing this during the spring break period. And so I just want everyone to be aware that that will be finalized during spring break.
Very good.
Thank you.
And we have another motion about Keene.
2, yes, yes we do. The
All
first one
right.
is the.
Someone want to make that motion? Yes, Mary.
Move to approve the recommended bidder, Tanner Supply Company, at the cost of $70,840 for the district keying system as presented.
Support? Chad, support? Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Final item on the agenda is the 3 playgrounds for DA, Clear Lake, and OES.
By the way, my playground never looked like those either.
It's because we play with rocks on the playground.
Exactly.
Here's a rock, kid.
Would you like to make a motion, Dan?
Sure. Move to approve the playground construction and equipment purchase for Daniel Axford, Clear Lake, and Oxford Elementary Schools at the combined total cost of $320,564 as presented.
And is there support? Eric, support? Discussion? Yes, Mary?
This is part of the bond.
This is correct, yeah,
Issue?
it's all part
Okay.
of the bond, and Series 2, these 3 playgrounds, along with coming in April, obviously Lakeville and Leonard's playgrounds will be coming up as well for your discussion and vote. And so we look to have this all complete by the end of summer. And so this is all bond proceeds paying for these. So we're very excited, as are all the schools. It's overdue, and we're really looking forward to it. So.
Yes?
And I probably should know the answer to this question, Sam, so I apologize in advance. If it's bond dollars, why are we having a motion to support?
It's still beyond the threshold, even though it is bond. That's a good question, bless you. Bless you. It is beyond the threshold, and so even though it is bond dollars, regardless of funding source, we still have to bring it to the board for approval. That's the reason why. And this is, just for everyone's knowledge, this is a cooperative purchasing. It's called Sourcewells. And so all of this playground equipment is competitively bid. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that.
So it's very similar to when we buy laptops.
Yep. Correct.
Computers. I just kind of threw me because we don't have a motion when we're going to, build a building or, construction wise. That just kind of happens.
Well, what do you do when you accept those bids from Clark Construction?
Okay.
Yes, they come down.
Okay.
That's right. I know it's different because we've been in that construction mode, and this is a little different because it's kind of almost pure equipment.
It just kind of threw me. Sorry.
No, that's a good question.
Anything else? Yes?
Maybe my math is just off. When I was reading through it in the board packet, I thought it was like 520,000, give or take a few cents.
So there is a.
Why does this say combined total of 320?
So there's a
Where are we off
component
here?
of an installation charges as well. This is the pure equipment
Yep.
charge.
Oh, okay, right. And then there was surfacing too, so there was like equipment surfacing
Correct.
and then install.
Correct. So the surfacing is, if you could think of it as mulch, basically.
That's kind of what I thought,
Yeah,
like
it's
gravel
engineered
or the mulch or whatever was gonna be underneath.
Correct. So
Yep,
the total of these projects with the playgrounds isn't just equipment. Obviously, the majority of the cost is the playground equipment itself.
Yep.
However, you have the removal of the existing substrate, which is pea gravel in most cases. In OESs, it's obviously the colored rubber, the blue colored rubberized membrane, if you will. In addition to that, it's removing all of these fixtures and equipment, and then putting down, obviously, the new equipment, but then also filling it with this engineered mulch.
Okay.
So there's several different processes within the project overall.
So this is just the actual equipment?
Correct.
Costs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes?
Is this included for work this summer?
Yes, this is all taking place this summer.
Anything else? Mary?
I have a question about the construction piece of this. Do we have any reason to believe there's any issue with any of the ground soil for any reason? I mean, is there anything that, I'm just asking.
No, I mean, that's a fair question, and to our knowledge, no. I mean, there has been no issues, again, in terms of any type of contamination.
Nothing
or
else around here or
anything.
anything?
No, not to my knowledge, and, I don't know. Tony, did you want to comment on that at all? Do you have any comments in regards to anything like that, or no? I know of no contamination whatsoever that exists.
And we're just putting playgrounds back in where they were. We're actually shrinking them down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that all you need?
Apologize. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye. Oh, we already did that. We just discussed after it, didn't we?
Right, you're right. It was 7-0, I already wrote it.
Did we approve it already?
Yes.
Yeah, we just discussed again some more afterwards. Okay, because I wrote yes next to it.
No, Eric supported it. It was 7-0, I got it written down.
All right, quit talking after we vote for something. Human resource.
Just a couple of quick updates. Thank you for your approval of Matthew Mueller, special education teacher at the middle school. We're very excited to have him on board. He's a resident of Oxford with kids in the school. So
Yeah.
very pleased to have him. And we are in the beginning phases of getting into hiring season. So the retirements are beginning to come in. So we're putting plans together to be ready. So you'll board will likely see some postings go out before our next meeting, end of March, first part of April. We want to get ahead of it. Obviously, it's a competitive market, and so we want to get out there as early as possible, get the best chance at a nice pool of applicants for our positions. We'll be attending we're sending a group of administrators to the Michigan State Job Fair on April 18th, or April 20th, and then April 18th, we'll be attending the Oakland Schools Job Fair. We had great success there last year. I think we interviewed over 100 people, and so that was a really good event. So we're very hopeful we'll be able to find some good folks early this year.
Very good.
Thank you.
Student services.
In your board pack, there was a revised schools of choice memo, and the change, the revision is OVA, what was kindergarten through fifth, and it's been changed to developmental kindergarten through fifth. But unfortunately, you have to keep the memo intact. You have to approve it as an entire package, but that's the change, is developmental K at OVA.
Well, we don't have to change the language of the motion.
It's already
I
there.
added it, it's in there.
Oh, yes, it's in there.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Would someone like to make that motion? Please.
Move to approve the school of choice enrollment for first semester trimester 2020. Developmental kindergarten through 9th grade unlimited, 10th and 11th grades unlimited to IB, Health Science, Engineering Academy, Advanced Conservatory, and Early College. Unlimited school of choice enrollment will be open 3/20/2020 and close on 8/26/2020. Developmental kindergarten through 5th, unlimited OVA, unlimited school of choice enrollment will open 3/2/2020 and close on 9/11/2020.
Thank you so much for that. Is there support? Whoops.
Yeah, one more.
Oh,
6th through 12th, unlimited OVA, unlimited school of choice enrollment will open 3/2/2020 and close on 8/26/2020.
thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you. Support? Dan, support? Discussion?
That's 20.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We have a youth assistance board member approval, a motion. Someone like to put that on the table? Dan?
Move to approve Robin Holzbaugh as a board member to Oxford Addison Youth Assistance as presented.
All right, support. Mary, support. Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
Policy. Yeah, please.
Move to approve the second reading of policy number 5200, full-time status attendance.
Support. Dan, support. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any unscheduled audience participation? All right. Scheduled activities, number 12. Any clarification, sir? Final board comments. Final board comments before we go into closed session. Yes, please.
I just wanted to share one thing, Mr. Boyd, is he still in here? I really enjoyed hearing, and Mr. Weaver too, hearing the praise for the teachers and the people in the building, and the staff in the building, and the people that work here. I just love hearing administrators saying what an amazing and fantastic staff that they have. So thank you for sharing that.
Any others? I just have a couple. Oxford Gives Back. If I recall, when I first came on the board, Oxford Gives Back was someone's project. And that someone's project has been repeated now for years. I don't know. Everybody should be proud of that. Reflect back on you created that individual, and it was so significant that it continues to roll. I joked about the phonics, but I just am so thoroughly impressed with how you as a staff are associated learning to everyday stuff, right? I mean, growing up in the 60s and 70s, you just memorized stuff or you didn't memorize stuff. But to have some kids learn phonics by thinking about the fact that there were fires in Australia which affected some animals, and brilliant, 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 brilliant. I'm excited to see the movement in the India side of things. Portrait of a graduate, I don't know, this is a big deal for me. There are school districts all over the place that have one single or maybe a couple single goals, and that is to improve student performance, get better scores on tests. The fact that this district has gone beyond that to say that's not enough. In order to be enough, we got to make sure that every kid that graduates from Oxford is the best possible human being they can be as they're going to enter into society, and that they're so well-rounded that they're going to succeed. I just hope that people of Oxford realize how big this is, and that it is going to take years to roll out. But if this continues, I'm telling you, it is going to be as big or bigger than the whole IB process or any of those. I mean, it is truly visionary, and it's cool to see. I think that's all I had. Yes, sir.
So I want to let the board know that we received a letter this week from MASB, the Michigan Association of School Boards. And I won't read the whole thing, it just starts out, Dear Tim, MASB recently acknowledged the accomplishment of one of your board members, Mary Hanser, for achieving level 1 certification and the award of merit. We're very proud of board members who use their valuable time to improve their leadership effectiveness by completing board development courses. So congratulations, Mary.
Thank you. I appreciate your support and the support of the community for me to continue my education to be a better board member.
Corey, you just did something like that too, didn't you?
Yeah, I just finished mine too with bio.
No, but it's significant. We got two of you. That's just fantastic.
Two of us are certified.
Certified. One at least is certifiable, that I know.
Friday night, I think, at 7 is the pause basketball game, or the pause game. Yes?
Friday morning.
Friday morning. Yep. So,
All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session. Dan?
Move to meet in closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Section 8A, to consider a periodical personnel evaluation of a staff member if the named person requests a closed hearing.
Support. Eric, support. Discussion? Heather, would you take us through a roll call?
okay. President Donnelly?
Yes.
Vice President Griffith?
Yes.
Treasurer Bailey?
Yes.
Secretary Schaefer? Yes. Trustee D'Alessandro?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee Hanser?
Yes.
All right, so we are 9:23 or 9:24. We're gonna.
I think it's
what?
8.
8:30. Oh, no, yeah, 8. Sorry, 8.
I think it's
8:25. Give us 5 minutes and we'll go into closed session. This particular part is